What happens when you add one part full of a toque to 3 parts of epic journeying across Middle-earth, facing perils and dangers the likes of which no hobbit has ever faced before? Well, maybe one other hobbit. Well, you get Peregrin Took, Guard of the Citadel, valiant defender of Gondor and hero of the Shire. Hi guys, my name is Mithril and welcome back to my series of Middle-earth painting tutorials, and today I'll be showing you my take on painting the Scouring of the Shire sculpt Peregrin Took, Guard of the Citadel. Now, contrary to most other Gondor uniforms, this model actually has a splash of colour on it. When coupled with the typical darker tones of the Gondorian tunic and pony, really make for a striking model. The delicate balance is going to be not bringing up the reds too high as to overshadow the darker, more muted tones. As this sculpt is metal, I've assembled mine using super glue, and I'll be working off a black primer applied using Citadel Chaos Black Spray. I hope you guys are ready for another epic addition to my Middle-earth Strategy Battle Games painting tutorial playlist. Brushes ready guys, let's get painting. The face and feet I'm giving an initial base coat using Bugman's Glow. The hair tufts on the feet and Pip's tousled hair are now base coating using Rhinox hide. The trouser legs, sleeves and underside of the cloak that's folded back on Pip's right hand side I'm giving a base coat using Corn Red. The rest of the clothing has been given a base coat with a 4:1 ratio mix of Abaddon Black and Naggaroth 9. This includes the skirts, chest area and the reverse of the cloak. I'm now carefully picking out Pip's satchel and base coating his gloves now using Catachan Flesh. I'm giving Pip's noble Steed a thorough, solid base coat now using a 50-50 mix of Rhinox hide and drier bark, making sure I work this into all the grooves and hidden details like around the legs and the undercarriage. I'm applying a pre-shade layer all over Pippin's face using a 50-50 mix of Bugman's Glow and Cadian Flesh Tone. The Bugman's base coat underneath will just help cover this a little bit more evenly. I'm now applying a quick targeted shade to the face and feet now using slightly diluted Reikland Flesh Shade and a rough 1:1 ratio. Now, Hobbit sculpts aren't known for their super well defined and detailed faces. The area of the facial detail is small enough on a normal infantry model, let alone a model that's Hobbit sized. So I'm trying to pull out as much detail from Pippin's face as early as I can to really make the most of all of his facial features. To start this, I'm applying a post-shade layer using pure Cadian Flesh Tone, focusing on the nose, brow, and defining the cheeks and definition around the ankles. I'm now going to be gradually working in Kislev Flesh to the Cadian Flesh Tone and start gradually building up the upper highlights over Pippin's face and feet. You can add as much or as little Kislev Flesh as you want here, depending on how bright and pale you want it to look overall. When I'm happy with how Pip's face is looking overall, I'm going to paint in the eyes very carefully using my usual method. To start off with, I'm painting the recesses of the eyes using Abaddon Black. Then applying 2 pinpoint dots of Pallid Bridge Flesh either side. Now moving on to Pippin's characteristically scruffy, tousled, hobbity hair. To begin with, I'm applying a shade using Agrak Surf Shade. This is the quickest way to get shaded definition given the texture of the hair itself. Once the wash is completely dried, I'm going to lay in some initial texture definition into Pip's hair by blocking out the larger patches and curls. Keeping a fine point to my brush and using a 1-to-1 mix of Rhinox hide and Gawthorpe brown, just carefully working my way around his head and over his feet. Now, because I took the time to lay in some initial texture work into Pippin's hair with my previous layer stage, this now means that I can dry brush on the following highlight stages, really making the most of that texture look to his hair without too much work. For the first highlight stage, using a small dry brush, I'm carefully brushing on Gawthorpe brown, going against the texture of the hair here for best coverage. I'm now repeating the process using a 2-to-1 mix of Gawthorpe brown and Baneblade brown for the final lightest highlight over the hair. The reds on this model are going to act as a really effective spot colour, which is really going to break up the darker, more muted tones of the pony and the Gondor uniform itself. But I want to make this stand out without making it too overpowering, so we have to watch how bright I'm making this red. To begin with, I'm applying a targeted shade to the red areas using diluted Caribou Crimson. With my shading in place, I'm now going to slowly be building up the layers by adding Evil Sun Scarlet into the original Corn Red base mix, leaving the shade showing in as many of the recesses as I can. Given these are quite shallow, this can be slightly challenging. Building this up to a layer using pure Evil Sun Scarlet, and now just concentrating on framing the folds and shape of the sleeves, trousers and folded cape. The upper highlights over the reds are now being built up with a mix of Evil Sun Scarlet and Towlight Ochre. I started with a rough 2-to-1 mix and then continued adding more Towlight Ochre, building up the highlights and the mix to a rough 1-to-1 split. The black area of the robes, conversely, are going to be nowhere near as bright as the red is, so I'm going to be building this up with a variety of muted and pastel-y purples rather than greys and whites here. To begin with, I'm building in some shadows with a manual shade of Abaddon Black. I want to build up the tone of the blacks a lot more gradually than I have with the reds and other areas. To do this, I'm going to add a small amount of Cacophony Purple into the original base coat mix. I'm going to continue working in Cacophony Purple until I have a rough 2-to-1 ratio mix in favour of the base coat mix. The purple here offers a little bit more warmth and texture to the blacks without making them look super stark, where I to use greys and whites here instead. I'm continuing to build on this process with the highlights, but now I'm gradually adding Warp Fiend Grey into the mix and further defining the folds, shape and flow of the cloak and robes. The Warp Fiend will raise the tone, desaturating it slightly, but not further reinforcing the purple tone, so I can maintain my sleek, smooth, velvety blacks. I'm continuing to add Warp Fiend Grey into the mix as I build up the highlights. I finished with a mix that had roughly 50% Warp Fiend Grey in, which in hindsight probably was a little bit too bright, but I don't think it hurts the model overall. white tree emblem in the centre of Pip's chest, I'm now very carefully picking out using Celestra Grey. Followed by a further defining layer using Pallid Witch Flesh. The gloves and satchel I'm now just quickly shading with a light diluted wash of Agrak Surfshade. I'm applying a post-shade blocking layer, separating out the fingers and framing the satchel with a 1-to-1 mix of Catachan flesh and Night Questor flesh. Following this with a fine edge highlight with pure Night's Questor flesh. I'm carefully picking out the belt around his waist now using Dryad Bark. And giving this a very quick extreme highlight using Gorthor Brown. Now I'm very carefully picking out the teeny elven brooch now using Warpstone Glow. Then giving this a quick edge highlight outline using Ogryn Camo. I'm picking out the sword blade using Lead Belcher. Then applying a tight controlled edge highlight using Ironbreaker. The hilt and buckle I'm picking out now using Sycorax Bronze. Followed again by an extreme edge highlight to these areas using Canoptek Alloy. Okay, so now all I have to do is finish painting up Pippin's trusty noble steed, and he's good to go. So I want to give my Pippin's horse a slightly darker brown, more chocolatey feel to its fur than that of his other Hobbit counterparts from the box. To begin with, I'm going to apply a thorough shade to all the horse's musculature using Agrak Surfshade, working this into all the recesses around its frame. Making sure this is completely dry now, I'm spending a bit of time defining the larger, bulkier areas of the pony's musculature, trying to leave the shade showing in the recesses as best I can. To do this, I'm adding small amounts of Cadian flesh tone into the original brown base coat. I'm adding more Cadian flesh tone into the mix just to soften and transition between this and the following highlight stages. Again, I'm building this up to a rough 1-to-1 mix between the base and the Cadian flesh tone. And adding Kislev flesh into taste as I'm slowly starting building up the highlights over the pony, adding as much or as little as I want to bring the tone up to the highlight hue I'm happy with. With each pass focusing more and more on defining the stress points of muscles and the bone structure moving underneath the skin, keeping your highlights tighter and thinner to achieve the overall best effect. The mane, tail hair and hooves I'm giving a base coat with a 2-to-1 mix of Storm Vermin fur and Abaddon black. These again are being shaded with a wash, this time with diluted Nuln oil, working this between all the grooves of the fur. I'm dry brushing over the mane and tail hair now using pure Storm Vermin fur, as with Pip's hair, going against the grain of the hair for the best coverage. Followed finally by a feather-light dry brush over the hair again using Administratum Grey. All of the reins and straps over the pony I'm now carefully picking out with a quick coat of dry bark. Then they're being given an extreme edge highlight just to frame each of the edges using Gorthor Brown. Finally, any buckles and metal details are now being picked out with lead belcher. At this point the pony's eyes were painted the same way as Pippin's right at the end, but I didn't think I would show you this again. Peregrin Took, guard of the Citadel, thought of a Took no longer, another Hobbit general sporting his fancy Gondorian regalia, leading the valiant defence of the Shire against Sharky and his band of ruffians. For basing ideas, please head on over and check out my 5-minute bases playlist. Thank you so much to all our patrons so far. Your support means the absolute world. If you do want to support the channel going forward, make sure you check out the link below in the description. That will take you through to our Patreon page with all the options available there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notification when videos go live. And until next time, guys, take care, and as always, happy hobbying. Bye, guys.